the testimony against his superior, Senior Sergeant Francis Wachira, who is among now the 6 officers charged with the abduction of Brian Odhiambo. How long has he been abducted?
6 months. January, February, March, April, May,
we
June.
interviewed the wife, right?
Yes, we did.
Yes, when the wife was seated here, I remember she mentioned something that going to the lake is illegal. It's trespass, right? But for you to access that, you have to lipa kitu kidogo for you to be granted access to go do your business.
Who do you lipa kitu kidogo to?
To the
rangers.
The rangers, you know. And it is feared that Brian did not have that money, and that could have been the reason why he was picked up. You know, so you look at kitu kidogo vis-a-vis someone's life, and like we keep asking here, just what value do we place on someone's life? And then again, you look at the justice system. He was somebody who, if he trespassed, you arrest him and take him to court. Why have him disappear? Because even then, I remember there's a gentleman that we also had here, I think from a civil society group, who said there was a grave that had been seen. They went there, it wasn't there. I think the body had been moved and whatnot. And as you say, the family knows. They have an idea of what might have happened. So this is just a question of the court just proving that there's a case so that justice can be dispensed.
And you know, the sad thing about this is a lot of these cases, if you follow through the history of inquests and this kind of stories, they can actually be pushed to the side on technicalities, on just pure technicality. And this case will just be over. I'm just trying to think in terms of going through the evidence, physical evidence that were recovered at the scene. And I'm thinking, so if they had mobile phones, did Brian have a mobile phone? Because most of the times you'll find people will always walk around with their mobile phones. If they can easily just track, look at the phone records, look at the GPS data of his phone, plus these rangers' phones, you can be able to triangulate and tell something happened here at around this time. It's easy to do that, but it's just sickening.
Sir, it is, actually. It is.
So there is this story of, you remember the guy who was dragged by the officers?
Yes.
Yes. So the family is mourning now. In a modest weather stone house tucked along the narrow, dusty parts of Nyeri Grogon estate, grief clung to the air like smoke. It is the home of Harrison Wachira, one of the scores of Kenyans allegedly killed by those sworn to protect them, the police. His eldest sister, Aisha Wangui, sat hunched in a plastic chair, clutching a framed photograph of her brother. Around her, women wept, chairs scrubbed against the cement floor, and handkerchiefs dabbed at tear-streaked faces, twisted in anguish. Now, he was like my last born, Aisha snobbed. I raised him when we had no one left. He had just started standing on his own she added. Now, Wachira, a 37-year-old father to an 8-year-old girl, was the youngest of his siblings, all orphaned early in life. Their mother died in 1995 and their father followed in 2015. Now, the family says, we want justice and not just words. We want those officers held accountable. If we stay silent, they'll do it again. They'll kill someone else's son and drag him just like they did to Wachira.
Wow.
That was a sad image to look at. It was a sad thing to see the police drag someone's life like that. And yesterday I was watching a certain documentary on how police officers move and their responsibility to even take care of someone who's injured during demos. And you look at what is happening here, and this is just disrespect to human life, disrespect to people they're supposed to take care of, which begs the question, what happened to our police officers? Are they that inhumane that they just don't care? That you've shot and killed someone, but you even go further to just drag them on a road and you don't care?
Well, there's also the idea that you won't imagine that if that people would be capturing that. But then also you have to ask a question that even though somebody might have a physical camera capturing what you're doing, you yourself, you have an internal capture in your mind of that. Look, I don't care if in the moment you are met with some bravado, that bravado that says, well, you can do this and you can get, it comes back, I'm telling you, and you're going to have to live with some horrors for the rest of your life. Yeah. You will. It'll torture you.
You know, here's the thing. You look at this, sometimes you look at some of these images and some of these video clips, And you can't imagine you're actually in Kenya, in the sense that what you see in failed states, on the streets of failed states, when you have protesters engaging either the military or the police in those countries, and how they handle the protesters, whether you've shot them or not. It's like gangland. It's a situation where there is a tone that needs to be set, and because it hasn't been set from the top, there is this feeling of lawlessness. There is this feeling of we're almost turning into animals. Turning into animals, where you know how animals can turn on each other, and all of a sudden they start not just fighting but even eating each other. We're almost losing our soul and losing that part, that humanity in us. And when now you see it, you say these are not criminal gangs. Let's put this into context. What you're seeing is not armed robbers. We're not seeing some people who are just out on the street. These are police officers doing this. And if it's not enough to kill a young person, because I was looking at the average age of all these protesters, you look at their ages, the average age is around 23, 24.
Yes.
So you're looking at something. There's something bigger going on, because if you're looking at destroying that age group, that's the strength of a nation when you're looking at young people, and this is how then we decide to treat them. That it's not enough to kill them, but kill them, drag their bodies on the streets like there's some garbage. So there's something we've clearly lost.
You see here, the aunt says they would not let anyone come close. He was left bleeding like an animal on the road. There was help nearby, but they let him die. Then 2 officers came, grabbed his body and dragged him like he was nothing. His head was hitting the tarmac. When I saw that video online, I prayed for that poor boy. Little did I know I was praying for our own son.
Okari, share a final story with us as we go to the top.
Oh God. Let me quickly go into this story. So, just a bit of thousands of students, youth and women who depend on bursaries and empowerment programs are set to suffer after the Control of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, suspended funding for numerous county-managed funds. The directive also affects disbursements for mortgages and car loans for MCAs and county officials, as well as disaster and emergency funds, exposing devolved units to potential crisis. So Nyakango's move follows the lapse of several key county-specific funds, including the Education Support Scheme, bursary funds, mortgage and car loan fund, and youth and women fund. Also affected in several counties is the Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, which generates, it's unbelievable how many funds we have actually. So when you go through this, you realize, wait a minute. So the action has raised concern among devolved units, many of which rely on the funds to deliver critical services and support vulnerable population. Now, I juxtapose this because I've happened to open the Daily Nation, just a story I was looking at here. I juxtapose this, bursaries dealt blows, Nyakango halt funding for expired kitties, and all those details. And there's a story here. Let me just quickly go through this. And now I think I know why people have been streaming to State House. We've been reading these stories of counties are going, governors are going to State House, huh? So the story here is KDF personnel will work on critical infrastructure, stadiums, and hospitals in counties. So governors are now enlisting the military to revive stalled projects. So this is how it's happening. So turning to the military to help them complete critical projects, stung by delayed development, with some of the projects falling way behind schedule. Now, county bosses have enlisted the services of the KDF. Now, how they're doing this is the governors are directly engaging President William Ruto, and they're striking deals for the KDF to finish stalled projects Critical infrastructure, stadiums, hospitals, and schools are among the incomplete projects. So,
Oh God.
Governors Susan Kihika of Nakuru, Fernandez Baraza of Kakamega, Dr. Kiere Badilisha Nyandarua, James Orengo, Siaya, Stephen Sang Nandi, Jonathan Bios and Gishu have handed over projects to KDF officially. Defense Principal Secretary Patrick Mariru said President Ruto gave a directive for flagship projects to be accelerated. Make sure we finish this thing. So the projects are being implemented under the oversight of the Ministry of Defense. So if you look at details of those projects and the audit report, because we're looking at what Nyakango here is doing, and then juxtapose this with what we have here, an audit report has shown that 12 billion projects have stalled in at least 10 counties. Guess the
12
list.
billion shillings.
12 billion Kenya shillings. Projects have stalled in at least 10 counties. Among those 10 counties are the ones I've just mentioned. And what are they doing? They've gone to the president. Because some of them want a re-election, we need to fast-track this thing. So, because KDF is very diligent when it comes to these things, give us their engineers, give us to construct our hospitals, finish the stadiums, and all the other stalled projects.
Question. The contractors who won the tenders to work on these jobs, what happened to them?
What happened to the money that
what
was
happened
paid
to the money
them?
that was paid to them?
And you have to ask that
what
question.
are we doing to ensure that that money is recovered back to the exchequer?
You know that moment when you say sips water?
This is that time.
Dennis
Yes.
is water. And he said, "Ne goma."
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
My name